Hey everybody, what'd you think of the format? Video yesterday, video today. We'll try to get this thing knocked out as quick as possible. Something I didn't mention about my pile of parts and my thought process that you might find useful is that I paid $40 for a bunch of parts. Some of those parts I'll be able to use. The equivalent of maybe $60 to $100 of new parts I'll be able to extract from my pile of parts that I bought yesterday. But the key here, that's right, the key here is that I will have extra parts that I will be able to sell to recoup all or some of that money, so that my total net cost when we're all said and done will be lower. For instance, the part by your left hippie shoe is probably worth $50. That's the rear end, no, the thing that the wheel goes on, not the carburetors.
What? Oh.
This thing.
I don't know.
That's probably worth $50 or more on the used market. So think about that when you're trying to decide how to roll out of a bad situation, because this turned into a bad situation. I did not want to rebuild the entire engine, but that's kind of what we're going to do. Steps we need to take here are, I'll disassemble this thing actually beyond its most disassembled state thus far, and remove the engine from the chassis and go to work on it.
You think you can do this in one day?
Well, I'm doing what I do. I'm doing it at my own pace, and we'll see what happens. Of course, I think I've removed all of the necessary components to extract the engine from the frame. How long did it take? Didn't you look at the computer when we started?
Not too long.
So we took off the fuel tank. We took off almost everything. Fuel tank, airbox, exhaust, swing arm plate. This is the drive line, and I took it apart at this junction. If anybody's out there following along and are trying to figure out how to take off the engine, that's why I'm going through this. I took this apart at the junction here where it meets the motor. I pulled off the center stand, and I've got the frame resting on a toolbox right here because the center stand attaches to the engine, not the frame. So if I didn't have it supported here, I'd have to flop it over to the side. I left the oil injection system connected to its feed line and actuation cable. I just folded it and the carburetor out of the way, and I disconnected the electrical connections right here at the engine. So I think the only thing holding this together right now is this pivot bolt, which is also an engine mount bolt. So I'll pull that out. Looks like it's laying an egg.
What a beautiful baby!
Good one, Marge. I don't have a place to put this. I've cleared off a workstation, and I forgot to drain the oil. That doesn't look very good.
Looks kind of sickly.
Yes, we only ran that oil for 5 minutes. I still can't believe this thing started in the last video on the first kick. Before doing the video, I walked over to the motorcycle, and I think I kicked on it 20 times.
Ooh, you got it warmed up.
Nothing. But then I go on the video and mention how it's completely non-running condition. First kick, ring ding 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 ding.
It knows.
It knows. It's so small. I feel like a watchmaker. So we'll drain that oil, and then, matter of fact, while we wait for it to drain, I'll do something that I've wanted to do anyway, and that's pull off the top end and just see how bad the cylinder and piston are. I'm hoping that even though the piston is scored, the cylinder will still be serviceable. That may just be wishful thinking, but this is a cast iron cylinder, and just because that soft aluminum piston has some marks doesn't mean that the cylinder is trashed. So I have maybe a minute left of optimism until I find out for sure. There's the head, and now for the cylinder. Okay, let's have a look. Add a new cylinder to the laundry list. I call it the laundry list because it's cleaning me out. These grooves are not specially machined lubrication galleyways. This is what negligence looks like. This is what carelessness looks like. I don't know exactly why that happened, whether it was lack of oil, excess heat, lean condition, but I'll either have to buy a new cylinder or have this one machined, or I may get lucky and this secondhand hunk of iron may work some way to my advantage. I halfway expected that this would be the case because of how rough the piston is on the underside, but hope springs eternal here at the ranch. The next thing I want to do is dig in to this bottom end and start trying to get at these main bearings, and I also want to decide if I want to reuse this crankshaft or the one over here. I think, as a couple of you suggested yesterday, I'll mix and match the best parts, and hopefully among all of the different offerings in this smorgasbord, we'll be able to put together something delicious. I've never dug into a PW50 engine before, so I'm not positive what the industry accepted steps are, but we'll start by removing this reed block because it's right on top of both of the case halves, so it definitely needs to come off. I'm really anxious to remove the flywheel because I want to see just how bad the bearing and seal are behind it. I'm not going to do that just yet though, because the easiest way I've found to hold the crankshaft still while removing this nut is to wedge something between the gears behind this cover. So that's what we'll take off now. I'm trying my hardest not to strip out these screws. They're in pretty good shape. I'm always happy to see engines where the screw heads aren't completely stripped out. That means people haven't messed with it a whole lot. I've got a toughie here. This wrench is mainly good at ruining screws. Got it. Worked a treat, as they say.
I want a treat.
You got a Nintendo Switch today.
Just thinking.
Turkey?
I think I've had enough treats lately.
No treat for you. So those are all loose. I didn't realize it, but the drain plug is also a case screw. Now we'll tap this off.
That's how you get it apart. You whack it.
That's how I get it apart. This case has some nice little tabs here and here to whack on. It reduces the temptation to wedge something in this crack and really mess things up. Okay, that's a really simple little engine. This must be the centrifugal clutch. I'll put probably a penny between these two gears to hold everything still so I can unbolt this nut and the nut for the flywheel on the other side. I went inside and grabbed a penny, but now I'm having second thoughts about the procedure I just outlined. If I put this Abraham Lincoln keepsake between these two gears, it halts everything so that I could theoretically remove this nut that holds the primary gear in place and the nut that retains the flywheel on the other side. But the reason I'm having reservations is because there's some kind of shock absorption mechanism behind this primary gear. If I hold the crankshaft still with the flywheel and move this, there's some free movement there. I'm not sure the reasoning and the engineering behind it, but I'm not ready to bear down on the nut over here on the other side, not knowing the apparatus that I'll be forcing against. In addition to that, this whole crankshaft is held in alignment with nothing more than a pin that's pressed into each one of these halves. So it's possible that if I exert enough torque on this side while holding this side still, it could throw something out of alignment. What this all means is I need to find a way to hold the flywheel still on this side before I can remove that nut. I'll put my brain to work on that. I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching.